Hi, you're with Peter Carr and Scott Stewart, and welcome to LTV's The Research Channel. One of the companies we follow a lot in Australia is Telstra, for obvious reasons, one of Australia's largest technology-based organisations, even though traditionally, historically, a telecommunications company. Look, Telstra's had a very interesting past decade with changes in management and restructuring and employee downsizing and the rise of the NBN and proposed structural separation and share offers, and then really in the last 5 or 6 years this move into technology, and as there's been a convergence between traditional telecommunications and traditional IT. So Scott, you attended the Analyst Day in Melbourne. It was over a couple of days, and so what were some of the highlights this year, and are we starting to see some good signs ahead for Telstra?
Look, absolutely. I was just really surprised. It wasn't what I was expecting at all. I had a lot of preconceived ideas about Telstra, and they actually said that that's what they're finding with a lot of people. So they had a fantastic summit, and they are a different Telstra. Honestly, I was very impressed. Very customer focused, very visionary. They obviously have done a lot of work with their strategy. They have a very well articulated roadmap and a plan. And
okay. So what is in that roadmap then?
Well, I think the key thing to think about is that what are Telstra? We know they're a telco, and we know that they have this very long heritage of networks. And are they moving into IT services? Are they a content producer? I mean, they do movies. They just do so much. And so there was a risk, I guess, that it was just trying to do too many things. But what they've done is they've said, no, look, we are not an IT services company. We are a network provider, and we're very good at that, and that's our core. And on top of that, we're going to add layers and layers and layers of value. And to their credit, what they've been able to do now is provide a range of services that are accessible now to the small and medium business market. So the kind of things that only large enterprises ever had the luxury of having are now clearly available, readily available to small business.
So is it a case of they're really starting to tidy up and make their go-to-market clearer for the different segments that we're in? Because if we think about Telstra, from a segment perspective, they target enterprise and government, and that's obviously network-based. I'm surprised, about, okay, yes, they're not an IT services company, but we know they've been putting strong messages out there about cloud services. So is it that we're not going to see Telstra cloud services in enterprise and government, but in the general business space, that small to medium, are they going to start being that integrated IT provider? Essentially, I mean, if you're providing email, if you're providing those other desktop services, if you're providing internet access, if you're providing hosted storage and things like that to an SME or an SMB in Australia, that's a service provider, right?
Yeah, I must admit that a lot of the times when they were talking about the extra value add services, I kept saying, well, hang on, that makes you an IT services provider. And I asked that a couple of times. And
is it just really, are they trying to separate themselves out from the Macquarie Telecoms and other telecommunication companies like that? Because they are offering these services. So what's behind this positioning?
What they're doing is that, let's take the cloud story, right? So their cloud story is an excellent one. So in other words, what they say is that for enterprises, first step one is they'll do the IP network, right? Step two is that then they implement a wireless strategy into that enterprise. Step three is that they'll manage the network for them. So instead of you having all the devices managed with an internal team, they'll take over the management of that.
Okay, we still haven't gone past the network then.
No, that's right. Then what's coming in is hosting. So they have an incredible demand for hosting. It's just absolutely skyrocketing. So everything from hosting of their compute and the storage and all that infrastructure as a service, but particularly to video and voice.
Video and voice for business.
For business. And then, of course, it's just then a natural progression that they basically basically manage the infrastructure as a service for that enterprise. So it's a roadmap strategy. It's you know, you think about it, if you have the underlying network and you're able to add scale and you're able to add, you know, feature upon feature, and then you can add additional a broader set of offerings, it's very, very, very compelling.
Okay, so essentially they're going to, yes, they provide a network, but the network's becoming ubiquitous, right? And whether you get it from Telstra or you get it from NBN or you get it from somewhere else or you get it out of the ether from a wireless provider, a network is a network. But it sounds like that there is a clear picture here in terms of the continuum of service delivery that is capable on that network. So you have your network,
yes.
Then you have your identity, you know, the basis of identity, then you might have your collaborative services, then you might have your mobility services, then you might have your data and information services, whether that is content provided from Telstra or your own content stored, managed, you know, optimized by them, and then obviously mobile devices and things out the other end. So we'll never see Telstra out, you know, beyond the mobile device in terms of mobile internet devices like phones and iPads and things like that. But that's kind of the continuum now, right?
Exactly. You must have seen the slide that I was going to throw up.
No.
So we've just thrown the slide up now, and you'll see here that this is the product strategy and roadmap. And what they're saying is that you can see that there's these swirls going through from, so they're starting at the core, secure, intelligent network, moving into the cloud. Unified comms is a very, very strong, compelling offering there, particularly with video, hosted video conferencing. They demonstrated that. It was absolutely amazing. They're doing a lot of the managed services, and then, you know, they're actually moving into these industry vertical solutions. And being Telstra, they're right into bundles and packages. So they're able to, you know, provide a complete bundled offering to a small, medium business.
And I guess this has always been my challenge with Telstra, and I'm wondering if it was addressed this year at the summit, is that's a wonderful continuum of services, but if I'm a business, whether I'm a small business or whether I'm enterprise and government, I'm looking for a point of entry into this continuum, right? And it may be cloud services, it may be unified communications, it may be my desktop services, but I'm looking for a point of entry, and you know, we're seeing with our customer base, or just more broadly when we're doing research in the market, that there isn't yet a good maturity in terms of an understanding of that end-to-end strategy inside the organisation. So I kind of, you know, it makes the hair stand up on the back of my neck a little bit when you know, then I see packages out the other end, and you know, here's a package and it'll take care of all your requirements, and I'm a little bit nervous about that. So was that how is Telstra addressing the strategy thing? Because that's kind of, when you talk about an IT services company, that there's at least an element of strategy in that. So where is the professional services? Where is the strategy? Where is the advice? Where is the guidance, that trusted kind of partner element inside the Telstra roadmap? It was
very evident that Telstra have done a lot of work around customer service and very customer-centric strategies.
Okay, but we're not talking about call centres, right?
No, we're talking about enterprise professional services. We're talking about strategic sort of implementation, you know, services, strategic roadmaps for the enterprise. So on the entry point that you made earlier, clearly they definitely do have multiple entry points into this roadmap model. Things like Office 365 is absolutely taking off for that small enterprise of 10 seats or less. Really taking off, which is a great thing, because that's kind of where it belongs.
Yeah, sure.
Right? And cloud services, infrastructure services, there are definitely enterprises entering the Telstra environment to consume those sorts of services. Hosted telephony, so Tippet, you know, IP telephony and video is definitely another point of entry.
But I guess my question is Telstra relying on other parts of the market to do the education and the strategy and the guidance for these businesses, and simply coming in with the solution? Because I think they've got a bigger responsibility than if they're kind of bringing packaged solutions like this into the market. And I guess, you know, traditionally Telstra has been a marketing-driven organisation, and they've relied on marketing for their thought leadership. But I think, you know, I actually think now there is a higher level requirement beyond that, you know, and so where can I find that?
Yeah, so I saw it there, and I think clearly in the executive changes that they've made there and the accessibility to those executives, when you spoke to them, you definitely knew that these people were connected with the customers. They're connected with their enterprises. They brought a lot of enterprises in to talk about case studies, and there were some very remarkable case studies that were given. And it was very, very clear that they've done a lot of strategic work, a lot of cultural change. That was very evident around customer, centric, strategic kind of responses. So, and not to be at arm's length, but to be right amongst the customers, and that came out very, very clearly. So they've done a lot of hiring in that sort of custom-centric space, and they're very enterprise focused. So I was really impressed.
Okay, so I guess it's hard for me to see. It's a great solution roadmap. I can see where everything fits, but a solution and strategy, I still think there's a gap. I wasn't there. You were there.
Yeah.
You say you saw it. I think I want to touch and feel this a little bit more. And
yeah,
certainly
absolutely.
From a customer perspective, as I was saying, there's a real requirement to get the strategy in place before we start going looking for solutions and packages. And so I want to see a little bit more of that from Telstra in 2012.
Absolutely.